What's up, guys? In this video, I'm going to show you how to figure out what you want to do with your life. If that's interesting to you, keep watching. What's up, friends? Excited to make this video to tell you a little bit more about how to figure out what you want to do with your life. In this video, I'm going to be going through a few different concepts, but the main theme, the main flow that we're going to go through is that there are some things that we think are the right way to do this that I think are wrong. And there are some key questions that we need to answer, which I'm going to give you in this video that will help you figure out how you can accomplish your dreams and make sure you're walking the path that you want to walk in life. All right. So first, we're going to dive into some of that conventional wisdom that I think is pretty wrong. Usually, whenever we are asked what we want to be, right, which is something that we get asked from the time that we're kids to the time that we grow up, we get asked, what do we want to be when we grow up? Usually when we answer this question, we answer it wrong. We answer it wrong because what we usually say in response to this question is, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be an artist or an astronaut or a fireman or whatever that might be for you. But whichever of these answers that you've given in the past, they don't really answer the question that is actually useful for you, right? Ultimately, what they end up doing is telling you what sort of title you want to have down the line. I want to have the title of artist. I want to have the title of doctor. I want to have the title of lawyer. But they don't actually answer what you want to do with your life, how you really want to spend your time, what sort of impact do you really want to make on the world. And so the titles alone aren't really that useful, right? So the first piece of wisdom that I want to break right here is that answering with these general titles is really useful. And I will also add that we do the same thing when it comes to the question of what do you want to study in college, right? We say, I want to study psychology, I want to study computer science, I want to study engineering. What all of these answers are missing is one key element, which is this question of why, all right? Whenever you're making an important decision about your life, you're trying to figure out where you want to go or what you want to do, you're making a choice that's going to dictate who you become in the future or affect your life down the line. The first question that you should really be asking when evaluating any of the options is why. Now, I know that this is really intuitive. This is something that we think about all the time. Possibly, if you're in college now or you're considering going to college or you've gone to college, you evaluated a bunch of different options for why you might do it, right? So we make this choice all the time, but there are different ways to make this decision. And what I want to do right now is show you the two different ways that we often choose, right? The first way that we often choose is what I call emotional decision making. Right? So an emotional decision is a decision that you make in the moment. You make it with limited information. You usually haven't had the time or you haven't taken the time to plan out and answer this why question deeply. And so you make that decision based on what feels right at the time. In many ways, almost every decision we make has some emotional component to it, right? We make choices based on what feels right. Even if we have a ton of information, we have to pick something that feels right. But we can look at this as a category in and of itself, okay? So a few examples of where this comes up. Imagine you go to a college, and at this college you didn't have to pick your major before entering the college, but you enter the college and they say, hey, by the beginning of your junior year, you need to have picked your major. But your whole life, people have been telling you, hey, you've got time to figure that out, you've got time to figure that out. You go through senior year of high school and you're not sure of how to answer this question of what you want to do with your life. You go into freshman year, you still don't know the answer to that question. You go to sophomore year, you're still not sure of how to answer that question. And when junior year gets here, you just pick a major, right? You pick something and you say one of those titles. I want to study psychology. I want to study computer science. I want to study engineering. What is it based on? It's based on the information that you have available right now, but ultimately it's an emotional decision because you're making a choice based on just what's available to you in that moment, not based on some larger, deeper why that's really guiding you, okay? This is the same thing also that happens for people when they get to the end of college. They get to the end of college, they look around, they say, oh man, I gotta get a job. And they scan for jobs, and they end up picking something that is available for them. The interesting thing is that people end up staying in those same jobs and allowing them to define them for years and years to come, often when that path wasn't the one that they ultimately wanted to walk in the first place. All right, so that's method one. We can make emotional decisions to choose how we want to move forward with our lives. Right? The other way that we can do this is with what I call the North Star approach. Give you little stars up here. Okay? So historically, the North Star has been an instrument for navigators, for people who wanted to explore the world. You could look up at the North Star and you could use it as a guide to understand what direction you were heading in and figure out whether you were going the right way or not. What I advocate for in life, the way that I make my decisions about where I want to go and what I want to do, is the use of a North Star approach, which ultimately means setting a destination, saying this is where I want to get to. This is what I actually want to be doing with my life. This is the set of activities I want to be carrying out. This is what it looks like. And then using that North Star to answer this other question, which is the one that people are actually asking, which is, what do you want to study, right? Or what job title do you want to have, right? We can answer that question better when we have a North Star to guide us. We can say, here's what our goal is, here's where I want to get to, and because of that, I'm going to study computer science, right? Because of that, I'm going to study psychology, which ultimately I think will save us a lot of time and effort in the end, all right? So that's the first piece of conventional wisdom that I think we usually get wrong, right? We often make emotional decisions when we should be making North Star-based decisions. We should be setting a North Star, and we should spend more time really figuring out what is our North Star. Where is it that we want to go? Where are we trying to get to? And I think our educational system doesn't do a good job at all of helping us figure that piece out. So in this video, I'm going to help you answer that question. And I'm going to help you answer it by giving you 3 different questions and little short exercises for you to do to set your first North Star. Okay? So again, 3 questions are coming for you. The first question and second question are really to help you figure out the range of types of things that you might want to spend your time focused on later on. And the third question really gets into the nitty-gritty of your North Star itself, okay? So the first question for you to answer, to figure all this out, is this one, okay? What brings you joy in life? Okay? So that's your first question. What I want you to do is I want you to write this question down somewhere. You can do it right now, you can do it after this video, you can pause the video where it is, but write this question down somewhere. What brings you joy in life? All right, and underneath it, whether it's on your phone or it's on a piece of paper or it's in a notebook or it's on a whiteboard or chalkboard if you have one, write out the answers to that question. And I want you to just brainstorm. I want you to mind dump everything that you can think of about joy onto this. It could be spending time with my family. It could be going on long walks on the beach. It could be standing up for the rights of kids at school. It could be fighting against bullies. It could be all sorts of things that really bring you joy in life, right? Playing video games, anything that you can think of, I want you to write that down on that list, and I want you to make sure that you've got a separate space. So maybe one piece of paper to write this question, and you'll have a different piece of paper for the other 2 questions that I'm going to give you, okay? So you're going to do that, and again, you can do that now or you can do that after this video is over. And then you're going to move on to answering this next question, all right? The next question is similar, but it's what makes you angry in life? A question that I often think that we try to avoid answering. Something that we don't really like to engage with in our society is this concept of anger, things that really upset us. And so what ends up happening instead is that we all have this anger boiling under the surface, and it gets expressed in all sorts of weird ways, right? So I think let's just be really clear about it. What is it that bothers you in life? What is it that makes you angry? What keeps you up at night, right? A really important question that's going to help you figure out your North Star. And I want you to do the same thing. I want you to list out the things that make you angry, and as many of them as you can possibly think of. And again, that could be bullying at your school. It could be global warming. It could be, the rights of indigenous people. It could be, the bankruptcy that your family is going through right now. Any of those situations are things that you can list out, and I want you to write down as many of them as possible. Okay? So those are your first two questions. All right? You're going to have a list and another list here. You're going to have them on separate pieces of paper or on separate spaces on your phone or something like that. Some place where you can keep the two lists separate and organized. And then what I want you to do is I want you to go through and I want you to find a way to mark them in the following ways, right? I'm going to give you the way that I would do it if I were writing it down, right? So for the top 5, right, of each list, I want you to circle those. Okay? I want you to circle your top 5. For the top 3 on each list, I want you to underline them. And then for the top 1, the top one thing that brings you joy in life, the top one thing that makes you angry in life, I want you to underline it. Okay? So at the end of this, you should end up with 10 total things selected, 6 things that are your top 3, and then 2 things that are starred, 1 which brings you joy and 1 which makes you angry. Okay? And once you've done that, you'll be ready to move on to this third question. The third question for figuring out what your North Star is, to figuring out where you want to go with your life, is this one. What are your goals? Okay? What are your goals? But there is a way of answering this question that is going to incorporate these two. Right? So in our lives, as we think about what we want to do, I believe it's a combination between cultivating joy, right, and reducing the tension that comes from these things that make us angry in life. A lot of times the things that make us angry there's some form of injustice. I think that the world right now is really aware of injustice, really aware of when things don't seem fair or they don't seem to be working well for others. The answer is not always what we propose it to be, but I think ultimately in life you want to strive for actions that will help you cultivate joy in life and also reduce the amount of suffering, or in this case anger, right, that you feel about certain things happening. Right? And so what I want you to do is I want you to use these two concepts. I want you to look at your list, look at your top 10, your top 3, and your top 1 from those lists. And I want you to set some goals. I want you to think about those as you do that. And the goals are for specific time periods, right? So thinking about what brings you joy in life and what makes you angry in life. What are your goals for 1 year, 5 years, and 15 years? What do you want to be doing to cultivate joy and affect those things that make you angry in life 1 year, 5 years, and 15 years down the road, right? For each of these, I would expect you to have somewhere between 3 to 5. You might have a few more, but if you end up with more than that, I would go ahead again and circle the top 5, underline the top 3, and star the top 1. That will help you really start to focus in on which things you want to accomplish. But what I want you to focus on also is I want you to focus on this 15-year time horizon here. Right? 15 years is far in the future for everyone. No matter who you are, no matter what age you are, 15 years feels like a really long time, a decade and a half. You know how many things change in a decade and a half? A ton, right? And so in that time frame, we can really imagine who we want to become, right? Who is it that we're trying to be? And I find this to be really helpful. In my own life, as I think about the answers to these questions, and I think about 15 years down the road, it's always been a time period that's far enough away for me to really envision the next stage, but also close enough for it to be real and tangible in my goals of actually getting there, right? It forces me to think about what should my goals be for 1 and 5 years from now if I actually want to end up there 15 years down the line. Additionally, I think a lot about these concepts of joy and anger and how to create a life that does cultivate balancing those two things. So for those who don't know, right, I spend my life running my own company. I run my own social impact strategy and design consulting firm. That's what I do for work, and I absolutely love it. It gives me an opportunity to work for myself, which is something that my grandmother will remind me I told her I would do when I was 4 years old. It also gives me a chance to tackle these really big problems that anger me in life. Things like criminal justice reform and education reform and healthcare reform. I get to work with people who I think are often overlooked, people who aren't given opportunity, because that's what really bothers me. It bothers me when people want to achieve something in life and no one is willing to help them. It bothers me when people can't reach their fullest potential because of systems that they did not create for themselves. And so I spend my time undoing and redesigning those systems alongside governments and nonprofits and foundations because that reduces my anger about that. But I also get so much joy from the people I get to connect with, spend time with, become friends with, spend time with my family, control my own schedule, etc. Right? I started that company at 22 years old, and it has been a journey to get to where it is right now, where it's actually stable. I'm currently 31 for anyone who is counting. It took me about 5 years to get to the point where that was rock solid. But I will tell you that having this North Star approach, knowing where I want to go, knowing what I want my life to look like, knowing and looking ahead 5 to 15 years down the line and saying, what sorts of obstacles am I going to face that are going to keep me from getting there? That's been what has allowed me to set all of my goals along the way. And now that I've arrived at having that organization, that company, and having some balance to that, I get to reset my 15-year goal, my 5-year, and my 1-year goal, right? And so that's my last lesson for you as you go out to do this exercise. What you set for all of these, how you answer these questions can change. It's not something that has to stay set in stone, and in fact, it shouldn't. As you get into your 1-year goal, you may find that you need to change your 1-year goal. As you get into your 1-year goal and you're moving towards your 5-year goal, you may start to recognize that actually that 15-year goal you had, that's not really what you want to do anymore. That's not where you want to go. That's perfectly fine. What's important is that you come back to this exercise and you use this to recalibrate, to think again about what is it that I really want to be doing 15 years down the line, and then what do I need to do 5 years and 1 year from now in order to make that happen, okay? That's what I got for you. That's how you figure out what you want to do with your life. It's a continual process of constant improvement. What I will say is there are a lot of actions one can take after this video, but one of the biggest actions you could take is to close this out and never do this exercise. But what I really don't want for you, or for anyone, because my whole thing is about people realizing their potential, what I really don't want is that you end up getting tripped up walking someone else's path. Don't walk someone else's path, walk your own. Figure out what your path looks like. You have to put in the work. No one else can do it. There's no Google search that can figure out the answers to these questions for you. So spend a few minutes. I'm talking about anywhere between 10 minutes, an hour. You can spend a week if you want, but the minimum amount of time that you put into this, I guarantee will start to bear some fruit for you. All right? Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. Let me know what you come up with for your 1-year, 5-year, and 15-year goals. And hit that subscribe button so that we can continue to work together to master our destinies and achieve our dreams. All right, I'll talk to you later.